what's going on, everybody? This is JohnJake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with some Year 2 season recap action. We had a fantastic season, and I just wanted to rock it through with you guys with how great this year was. Going to look at the playoff bracket, which you're seeing right now, and then we're going to also check out the awards for the American League. Going to start with the National League, follow that up with the final standings so we can figure out who has the #1 pick, and then we're going to wrap things up with the American League awards in this episode. It should be a good one, so make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you have to be brand new, as take a look at this playoff bracket. We actually had some really good playoff series this year, definitely a lot less sweeps than last time around. I mean, the only sweep that we saw was in the ALDS. We saw the Boston Quakers sweep the defending World Series champions, the Chicago Freeze, doing it, winning 2 games on the road. Then they took on Minnesota, and then they lost in 5. But we had another classic of a World Series, though. Ended up winning the World Series from the wild card. They had to play the Pittsburgh Force, win that wild card game, and then ran their way through. 1 in 7 games. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Seals, they have heartbreak again. This is the 2nd straight year that they went to the World Series, so they win 2 NL pennants so far in this series. But at the same time, though, they lose another Game 7, a heartbreaker if you ask me. They do end up beating the LA Saints in 5 games, beat the Philadelphia Patriots in 6 games as well. So definitely a good year, a year in which we saw new playoff teams emerge. Boston makes their first playoff appearance. Pittsburgh makes their first playoff appearance as well. Both those teams are actually trade day sellers back in year #1. Aurora, they won the NL Central, so they got their first playoff appearance. And then the Washington Senators get their first playoff appearance as a wild card team. For the first timers, it wasn't that good though. Only Boston managing to win their series, or at least a playoff game. Aurora could not win a playoff series. Washington, they lost their game to LA, and then Pittsburgh lost theirs to Minnesota. So, and we also have the Hawaiian Honolulu Islanders. They went from not making the playoffs last year to the #1 seed. Couldn't do anything with it. Lost in 5 games. Granted, it was to the World Series champions, but definitely a tough look for that organization. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the awards for the National League. We'll go ahead and jump right into it, as we will start, like I said, with the National League. Now, starting with the National League, we got Bryce Harper that ended up winning the MVP in a great year for him. 322, 45 homers, 143 RBIs. Nobody is disputing that. He wins his first MVP award. In doing so, 4th year with the Philadelphia Patriots. He's on a very long-term deal. He's going to be in Philadelphia for a very long time. Now, as for the Cy Young, Lucas Giolito actually wins it. Another LA Saints pitcher. But defending Cy Young winner, Kyle Hendricks, he ended up finishing 3rd this year. Although we did see Shane Bieber give it a good try. But, I mean, there's no dispute. Especially in an offensive league like the USBL, Giolito with a 2.5 ERA, that is fantastic. And doing so on a really cheap contract as well. I mean, look at this. He's only making $4.5 million a year. Definitely a bargain of a pickup, leaving in free agency for the Nashville Blues. And definitely a year in which he turned it around. He went 4-17 last year, but that is more reflective on how bad really the Nashville Blues was back in season #1. Lucas Giolito was a big pickup, but can't get them over the top against the San Francisco Seals. As for the batting title, we do see Luis Suarez with the batting title. He ends up with the highest batting average in the National League, batting .342. Bryce Harper, who won MVP, he ends up finishing in 2nd place. No Reliever of the Year award. Now, this is really interesting. Did not see this coming whatsoever. So good job, MLB, to show. Hopefully that something like that is fixed in a future MLB The Show game. Rookie of the Year, though, Josh Trout. We saw him in the NLDS, and he had a coming out party. Even though his team didn't win, he lost to a superior Philadelphia Patriots squad. He had a great year overall. 330, 14 homers, and 52 RBIs. Matthew Thompson was up there as well. He was listed as a top prospect. 12-6, 3.91 ERA. I believe has 136 strikeouts, if I'm not mistaken. So, both of these kids really have bright futures ahead of them. I mean, and Trout also gets a potential boost. He's now a B potential guy. So that's really awesome to see. Now, for the Hank Aaron Award as well, we do see Bryce Harper bring that home as well. I mean, again, not really anything to dispute here. I mean, 45 homers, 143 RBIs. Yeah, that is, no question about that. And now we jump into the Gold Glove Awards. Now, here we are in the National League. This is what we got going this year. For the pitcher, we got Tyler Anderson of the Denver Bald Eagles. So even though he had a little bit of a tough year on the mound, he did end up winning a Gold Glove Award. Catcher, we do have Wilson Ramos, and thought that it could be a close one between him and Buster Posey, but they will give the nod to Wilson Ramos because of those putouts, as well as having more assists throughout the season. And this is his second year in a row that he wins the Gold Glove Award as well. First base, we got Jamie Lacey of the Jacksonville Suns, and no questions there. Had a fantastic year, surpassing Joey Votto, who might be retiring after this year. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. National in the second base, Yolmer Sanchez of the New Orleans Kings, with more putouts, assists, fielding percentage, it's up there as well. Third base is a little bit of a tougher year, but Jahmir Condorero does retain it again. He does win his second consecutive Gold Glove Award at third base. For the shortstop, Alberto Mondesi winning it at shortstop for the Jacksonville Suns. Left field again, Chad Pinder. This is a pretty solid defensive team. They just couldn't get anything going with the bats. That's why, they did not have a very successful year. Center field goes to Booker Hobbs, who stepped in for Brian Buxton and actually had a perfect year. Did not have a single error. Definitely a well-deserved award for a guy who actually became a rookie at the age of 28. Don't know what his ceiling is because he is 28 years old, but a very good defensive player. And then finally for right field, a little bit of controversy. It's Bryce Harper. Now, we know he's great at the bat and he had a solid year, but Max Kepler and Aaron Judge both had higher fielding percentages. They just didn't necessarily have the putouts. I'm thinking that's why he went ahead and, they gave it to Bryce Harper. But I really would have advocated for Aaron Judge. He had more assists. He had not as many putouts, but, he did have that higher fielding percentage. So I would have given it to Aaron Judge, but the game decides differently. Now, as for the Silver Sluggers, we have Salvador Perez winning it for the San Francisco Seals. 264, 27 homers, and 84 ribbies. For first base, we got Pete Alonso of the Washington Senators, and a little bit of controversy here, man. Not as high as a batting average as either Freddie Freeman or Paul Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt even had more RBIs, so I thought they would give him the nod. He was the defending Silver Slugger from last year, but going in a different direction, probably due to those 41 home runs. As for second base, Ozzie Albies wins it this year, but again, I might have given it to DJ LeMay, who in this one, higher batting average, same ribbies, and a similar number of home runs. Might be a little bit of favoritism towards the San Francisco Seals. Chris Bryant, he retains his batting title for the third base position, but yeah, I would have given it to probably, I'd probably given it to Anthony Rendon, to be honest. 33 homers, more homers, higher batting average. I would have given a nod to him, but Chris Bryant does win it. Over at shortstop, no controversy here. This is going to go to Trey Turner, who had really a breakout year. 322 batting average. That's really fantastic. Up from last year. He batted less than 250 last year. And did so with, granted, it was slightly less at bats, but I mean, home runs are up, RBIs are up, his walks are up, strikeouts down. And whenever he can get on base, he is an extremely fast player. 98 speed guy. that's a really good look for the Louisville Colonials. Now, to wrap things up, we got the outfield and Bryce Harper winning the first outfield spot. The second outfield spot going to Nick Castellanos. And then we do end up seeing Framel Reyes of the Milwaukee Bears win it for the final outfield spot. Now, as for postseason MVP for the National League, it ends up going to go to Seth Beer. And he had a really great time at the plate. 393, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs. Kind of a really breakout moment for him. Be potential guy. Just 24 years old as well. And he, improved his stats across the board from last year. So definitely somebody that has a really bright future. And he's on a really cheap contract right now. Only $90,000 a year. So that's definitely somebody that, they might have their cornerstone at left field for a very long time. Rendell Grushek in the right field spot. And we did also see Josh Donaldson with fantastic postseason as well. Now, before we go ahead and take a look at the American League Awards, let's go ahead and check out the standings real fast. Starting with the NL East, we saw the Philadelphia Patriots. They won the division 92-70. Senators also won 88 games. Charlotte did make a late playoff push, but they just could not. They just put themselves in too big of a hole to overcome it. They really did try their best in August and September, but it just wasn't in the cards for them at the end of the day. And then we saw New Orleans, who did make the playoffs last year as a wild card team. They lost to San Francisco in year one. They took a real big step back. They lost a lot in free agency. They were a really competitive team, but they just don't have the bats, and that really showed, here in year number 2. And then, of course, Jacksonville Suns, no surprise, bottom of the NL East. Not the number 1 pick, though. I'll reveal that shortly for the NL. For the NL Central, not any top-end teams, but it was a competitive division. No one had less than 70 losses, but no one reached 90 wins either. So this is definitely a division that, it's average. Not really something that, nobody that's really like competing for championships in this division. But it's a fun division to watch, especially in September when things are really close, and it was for much of the year, but the Lightning were able to pull it out. Now, for the NL West, we had the Seals. They were the only team with more than 100 wins this year. They went 101-61. LA Saints had a good year as well. They won 90 games. If they were in the NL Central, they would have won the division. Interesting enough. But, wrong division. They ended up going to the wild card. They won their wild card game, but they could not overcome the San Francisco Seals again. So it'll be interesting to see what they try to do in order to go ahead and try to get over the top. Firebirds definitely disappointing, 81-81. They got to 500, but it's a tough division, man. Seals are in here. They have the best team on paper. LA has the second best team on paper. So Firebirds, the best team that probably did not make the playoffs, but definitely a little bit disappointing. They expected more. San Diego, they're under 500, and then the Bald Eagles, 60-102, had 100 losses. Worst team on paper talent-wise, but I don't even think they got the number 1 pick, right? We'll go ahead and check out. They did have the worst record in the National Wild Card. They ended up with 60 wins. Go check out the American Wild Card real quick, and it's the Cleveland Rockers. They had the worst record in the USBL, 57-105. So when the USBL draft comes around for year number 3, they will have the number 1 pick. And it's going to be much needed because they were also devastated in free agency in the previous offseason. And that really showed. They went from division champs to the number 1 pick in an instance. There's a lot of parity in this league, even though, it may not immediately show. So now that we know about the number 1 pick, let's go ahead and check out the American League standings for this season. We're looking at the Quakers' worst division leader, at least record-wise, 84-78, but they did win in the ALDS, and they did also, they made it interesting against the Minnesota Ducks, but, they ran into a team that had more offense in them, kind of a team that overachieved a little bit, to be honest. Stone Crabs, they barely missed the playoffs once again. Atlanta, actually, after they'd made some trades, they were sellers at the trade day. They ended up having a much better second half. New York took a step back. They lost a lot in free agency. And then Cleveland, of course, lost a ton, ending up with the #1 pick. Meanwhile, the AL Central was really interesting as well. The Chicago Freeze won the division, but the Minnesota Ducks were the one that won the championship. So 2 championships in the AL Central to start this series off. And even though Pittsburgh Force, man, 3 teams making it to the playoffs, this is definitely the best division in baseball. Columbus even looked good as well. And then, well, Nashville is just kind of here. Not very good still. Got some things to work on. They got a lot of speed. They do have that going for them, but they just need their young guys to develop in order to compete with really the rest of the teams in this division. And now finally we have the AL West, who, I thought it was going to be more interesting of a push for the wild card, but both Las Vegas and San Antonio did fall off in the second half a little bit. Seattle, they lost Aaron Judge. That was probably the biggest loss in free agency. And, across the board, they got some things to work on. But definitely showing signs of promise, though. 28th, but with a 75-87 record. And then the Houston Hurricanes took a big step back as well. I don't even know what happened to them. It's not like they had any big losses in free agency. Yeah, they just, I don't know if they overachieved in year 1, but they are last place in the ALS, and we should have a pretty decent draft pick. But Honolulu, they did not have their late season collapse like they did in year 1. They won the division. They ended up with the best record in baseball even, but they just could not pull it all together. And yeah, they got bounced in the ALDS by the Minnesota Ducks. So let's go ahead and check out the awards for the American League now. As we take a look at the MVP award first and foremost, we got Mike Trout winning the thing. He ended up with 50 bombs. He had a 50 burger for home runs this season, doing so in 147 games, 133 RBIs as well. He even had a better year than last year, really across the board. Not that he wasn't bad last year, like he was really good last year too, but he was even better this year. And now he has 390 career home runs. He is now 30 years old. We'll see how high he can end up getting. Could be somebody that has 600 home runs by the end of his professional career. Meanwhile, for the Cy Young Award, it's actually going to go to Chris Sale this year. And I know he finished 18-7, but for me, I thought he could have had more wins, because every time that we saw Chris Sale in actual gameplay, he was somebody that just didn't really get that much run support. But still a good year, though. 18 wins, nothing to scoff at by any stretch of the imagination. 2.81 ERA, that's really good. 21 quality starts as well. Had 4 complete games and 4 shutouts as well to go with it. And yeah, he's a really darn good pitcher. Even at 32 years old, still one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Now, the batting title, that goes to the person with the highest batting average. That's also Mike Trout. So he wins MVP and also wins the batting title, just like with Bryce Harper over in the National League. Reliever of the year, only one reliever over on this side is JB Wendelken. Now, he had a fantastic year, 1.42 ERA in this year. Definitely, I think he was used as a closer. Now that I think about it, so not listed as a closer, but he stepped up in the closer role with the decline of Aroldis Chapman, and did a really good job with that opportunity. I'm sure they're going to keep him in that closer position. Now, as for Rookie of the Year, though, it's actually going to go to Danny Henderson. First year at the USBL level. He's up to a 77 overall now. He is a 28-year-old rookie, so I don't know how much he grows beyond this. But he was on a really cheap deal, $70,000 a year, and provided some good production for the Baltimore Stone Crabs. We'll see what kind of deal he can get in free agency. Probably he will end up staying with the Baltimore Stone Crabs. Robert Poisson, we saw a ton of. He came on in the second half of the season, but he definitely proved that he can be a star in this league as well. Already an 81 overall, and he's just 18 years old too, and he was acquired by the Houston Hurricanes really in the USBL trade day when they traded away Nick Anderson. So that's a real good pickup. They are the biggest winners of that deal. Hank Aaron Award also going to Mike Trout. Last year went to his teammate Eloy Jimenez, but staying in Honolulu, just going to a different person. Now we move on to the Gold Gloves, and for the pitcher spot, we have Sean Minera winning the Gold Glove. Had the most putouts from there, 24 putouts on the year. Shohei Ohtani and Steven Strasburg. Neither of them weren't too far behind, but stayed in San Antonio. For the catcher position, we got Joey Bart. And, could have been really close. Definitely splitting hairs between him and, I would also say, Christian Vasquez. But the nod will be given to Joey Bart this season. As for first base, you want to talk about, making an impact? How about winning a Gold Glove in your rookie year? Danny Henderson, he waited for his moment. He got it. Definitely, again, kind of splitting hairs between him and Ronald Guzman. But they are going to give it to the rookie there. For second base, Joey Wendell was a bright spot, winning that Gold Glove award. Probably would have given it to Colton Long. He had a much higher fielding percentage. Like 4 points higher. And he is the defending Gold Glove winner. But Joey Wendell had a good defensive year as well. Hopefully he can get himself going at the plate again. As for third base, we do see Nolan Arenado winning the Gold Glove. But again, a little bit of controversy here. Probably would have given it to Jose Ramirez. Higher fielding percentage, more putouts, more assists. Definitely feel like he got robbed, but Nolan Arenado, he might have gotten it just because, he is in a bigger market. Houston or New York is a little bit bigger than San Antonio, so that might be why he got the nod there. Shortstop, we got DG Gregorius winning it at shortstop, but again, I really feel like Paul DeJong should have won it. He won it last year. He had a higher fielding percentage, more putouts, more assists. So definitely some questionable selections over in the National League. Left field, we got Tyler O'Neill. I don't have an issue with that. Center field, got do have Jake Marinofsky. He had a really good year. Yeah, and really a tight race here in center field. None of these three guys had an error. So, I mean, really just kind of splitting hairs. They went with the guy that won it last year. Also was acquired in the USBL trade day from Houston. He was a backup there. He came over here to become a starter. And, again, got Jake Marinofsky and Robert Poisson in that same trade. I mean, that's just really nice stuff. And then right field, got Kyle Tucker. He ends up winning it for the San Antonio Outlaws. Perfect fielding percentage and definitely deserved it. So now we get into the Silver Sluggers now as we check out the designated hitter spot first. Xander Bogaerts is going to get it for the Chicago Freeze. 283, 32 homers, and 116 ribbies. It's his second year in a row that he does win the Silver Slugger Award. At first base, we got Will Smith, who also wins it for the second year in a row. 282, 38 homers, and 108 RBIs. Just had a lot more power than any other catcher in the American League. Then we have a little bit of surprising pick. Max Muncie won it. Now, he was in the home run derby. He hit a lot of, well, I guess it's not that big of a deal, but 247, that really pops out. But I mean, what he did with his power numbers, I can see why they picked him, so I don't have an issue with it. The second base going to Whit Merrifield, who, by the way, is going into free agency. He is not happy with the situation in Nashville. They might bring him back, but he is going to be one of the best free agents available on the free agency market come next, in the offseason, which I will get into in the next episode, just because I don't want that to get too long. Then we got Wario Suarez winning the third base award for Silver Slugger. Nice little year for him in his prime right now. Definitely turned it around from 2020, that's for sure. You love to see that. Then for shortstop, we got Corey Seager winning the award for this year. 310, 45 homers, 180 RBIs. Dude is 27 years old. He is in his prime right now, and it is looking like a good old time. To wrap out the Silver Sluggers, though, we got Mike Trout that won the first Silver Slug Award, followed by Ronald Acuna Jr. And then to wrap things up, we had Eloy Jimenez, who also won it last year. He ended up batting .301 for 35 homers and 124 RBIs. Great group. And then, of course, we got the postseason MVP, Garrett Cooper. He ended up with 379, 5 homers, and 15 RBIs in this one. Thad Gonzalez and Randall Polson also had really good years, but Garrett Cooper ends up coming home with the World Series MVP award. It goes to the best player on the winning team. And yeah, he was fantastic this year. 464 batting average over that 7-game series. It helped fuel the upset over the San Francisco Seals in what was a classic of a 7-game series. But yeah, guys, that is going to go ahead and wrap up the Season 2 recap. Next episode, I will have the off-season. It's going to be a good one, so make sure you smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you have to be brand new as well. This is JohnJake Baseball on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.